some episodes of this abnormal DevOps iteration podcast. Last time was about Puppet Fork. It was quite interesting and fun. But today we are going to talk generally about configuration management. So I will start with very simple questions. Nothing particular. We are not going to, don't diverge too much because there will be the question about AI. But first of all, let's make a small retrospective. Configuration management started when this conference, something like?
Can I answer that? Because I forgot. I think it's 2013 when.
Okay, so 11, 12.
First Puppet Camp was here, and then 2014.
So, quite a long time.
1 year before that, I think.
At those times, configuration management tools were around.
When did you first get to Ghent?
Oh.
Because I came the second time.
Whenever it was, so 20.
Nobody knows.
Nobody, we don't know, but it happened. But the point is another one, please.
We did one in Portland and we did one in Berlin.
Yeah, and then there was a gap here. And there was a gap.
That's what Tosh said.
And Tosh made T-shirts last year that said 10th year anniversary.
So it's the 11th.
First year was 2014.
Let's call it 2013, 14-ish.
Okay, whenever,
2015.
point is, did we accomplish the promise of configuring things?
Yes, I did.
You gotta use them.
We did for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, we configured a shitload of stuff. So yeah, I think we did.
Everybody agrees? Do you agree? Configuration management, let's say standard one, no? Things to manage on a system.
Yeah.
It has been
It's not
solved.
solved yet.
It's not solved, but it's like...
It's not solved.
Not solved.
It's not
It's not solved yet. We've learned a lot, had good discussions, built more stuff, but it's just beginning.
Okay, that's an opinion. I guess we can. What is? The point is thinking about the needs of those times, which are still valid needs today. Managing systems, things inside a system, operating system like Linux, server side, Windows, and so on. What is missing on that part, according to you?
According to me?
Yeah.
According to me, I mean, I'm doing my thing. I have this vision. Maybe I'm delusional, but I really want to look forward and see a future where all of this is really automated, right? To put us all out of a job, because society's main work should not be hiring sysadmins to manage stuff. The computer should be able to figure that out. We should solve science problems and physics problems and stuff that's, more interesting. So I want this to be solved, and then we can just have waffle conf instead.
I've never wanted that to be true.
Well, yeah.
I've never wanted it to be true for not a single day. Like, I love doing this work.
I'll do different work.
Yeah, I don't want to do different work.
This is the actual work I love. I've never. It was crazy to me when Luke Kanies said it in 2013. It's crazy to me now. Like, that the supposition is that what we want to do is take the humans out of the system and be like, no, the real goal here is that everybody who's at this conference, because you literally love doing it, is to just figure out how to fuck off and never do it again. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Well, and I love you. Well, I say it with love in my heart, but like, do you want to never do this again? Is that why you're here? Is everybody in this room here because you never want to do this again? Raise your hand.
So, I'm
Fuck you guys.
Those work for you.
Fuck you. Sorry, I'm swearing too much, but it's Italy. It's probably fine, right?
You want to be
That's the way to do it.
Adam, I want to solve this to put you out of a job and me out of a job in the same way that we put the elevator person that pushed the elevator button out of the job.
But here's the problem. Most people I bump into, they don't even know why they're doing this anymore. Like, when I started doing infrastructure automation, it was partly because I was fixing config drift. And now people are just automating things because they're automating things, not understanding the problem they're actually solving, and sometimes even reinventing the problem we solved by using those tools with those tools.
You'd be better off right now if you just went and read infrastructures.org and did it the way he told you to in 1998.
Yeah, and that is the way, and that is the reason why we won't be stopping to do what we're doing, because we still need to teach people, like, wait, it's not because you use this tool or that tool that the problem is solved. This is the problem you need to solve. And then they go like,
I agree.
The problem again.
I definitely agree.
Hey, did you see that? James is agreeing with
We
me.
agreed.
We agree.
I've always agreed with Chris,
And
and
there's
I've always
pieces.
liked Adam.
That's right. Well, so we have an agreement on our first question.
Yeah,
which is a
everybody
good
agrees
thing.
they like me.
Well, on stage. Just kidding.
So I guess next question is what's
Genuinely,
next?
I've had lots of enjoyable conversations with Adam, and even though we have different visions, I'm always looking at what he's doing because I like this space, and I like looking at all the tools, even the ones that are not what I'm interested in,
Yeah.
because it's fun for me.
I would share the same
I'm
thing.
trying to
I love
relish
you
it
too, man.
as much as possible before my tool
Obliterates
obliviates
us all.
everything else.
Turn to the industry and
This is
So,
more fun than I
James,
thought it would
now
be.
you have the occasion.
Yeah, I was about to say this is charming, but this is just our natural habitat.
I remember doing this kind of panel thing with like you and you and you and you were there too, and I was just like young. I think I had just given my MGMT talk for the first time, and all these
Which year
people.
was that?
2015, and I was just like, who are these people? Now I'm not afraid to talk to them, and try to give them a run for their money.
So, what's next? What's now going to happen in this field? Configuration Management Camp. You have actually good representation of what can be next.
How many years till retirement?
I don't know, how many years do you have left to retire? When do you retire in Belgium?
Does anybody know after the new government?
What's next? I mean, I think one thing that is, like an easy answer would be like system initiative or MGMT, or, like those would be trite answers. But like the non-trite one is that the problem for as much progress as we made, which was a lot, the broader problem in the world remains like very intractable, and certainly it's unsolved. And I think we're getting to a spot where now we've had enough successive generations of theory and of tooling that like you are starting to see alternate theories of like how the system could be built and how things could work. And I think we're going to see more, not less of that. I think the rate of return of simply like making an incremental improvement on what we already had, but built on like roughly the same basic foundations, like I think that rate's slowing down. And so I think what you're starting to see is people starting to think about like how can we build something that works in some fundamentally different way than what we had before, and it's hard to say what those systems will be because they're being invented sort of right now.
And I tried to bring them here on stage.
Yeah.
I tried to bring those crazy people here on stage.
Chris has been really cool. He got me into this conference, and it's the best conference of the year, and I say that genuinely and honestly. So you should fucking come here.
They already are here.
The internet people.
Oh, the
podcast
internet people. Oh.
Welcome to 2025, Chris, where internet tubes and wires across the net.
Is that how it works? Tubes and wires?
I don't know. Alessandro has a very famous podcast, and he is publishing this either live or post-conference. I'm not sure, right?
Yeah, but that's not the matter. The matter is what's next. So
To embarrass you, when I was like a super young junior, knew nothing about computers, doing early Puppet, we would search the internet and you would just see Alessandro's name everywhere. Seriously, not to make him feel old, but he was like you looked for a module and he had something, right? Example 42, it was like, what is this? It was like the thing.
James,
Yeah.
what's next? What's going to happen in our world?
I'm gonna have more MGMT customers and build crazier and crazier things. Nicolas, bonjour Nicolas, he got angry at me that I gave all these boring real world demos today. He's like, I want to see the fancy stuff, but I'm focusing on the real stuff to solve real problems that no one can really solve today, and that's happening now. And I'm going to do more of that, and hopefully you will help me. I've kind of held off on making this a company because I didn't want it to see it go to shit the way the rent-seeking, VCs eventually want to squeeze your software. But the truth is, most of you suck because most of you don't donate money don't donate patches, and I don't want that world long term. So I'm
So
trying to
maybe
find the
money
right
then.
what?
So maybe money then.
What?
Maybe money then.
If you want to give me money,
Maybe
it's,
some rent seeking
rent seeking
would
yeah.
be helpful for you.
Give it to me, and I will be a
Because then
benevolent
you
leader.
could give it to them for money, and then you'd have some. And that'd be good. It's better, the money.
Consulting is available.
Yeah, you could do that too. How did I wind up the villain? I feel like I'm a villain.
No.
Anyway, okay.
So talking about VLANs, open source. The question is if it's in danger. I mean, that's wrong question, but something is happening in the open source world.
Yeah, absolutely, it's in danger.
It's corporate.
I think the danger of it is actually, I have so many opinions, but I think what fundamentally puts it in danger is that, open source sits on top of free software's ideals. So it borrows from a thing that's like fundamentally about like the nature of software being roughly infinite if you have power and compute, and that therefore the sharing of those things it's possible that we as human beings are in control of our fate in a way that we're not on resources that aren't roughly infinite. And from those ideas, then open source turns them into roughly a thing that says, well, actually, we don't really care so much about all the Star Trek hippie parts. What we care about is that it's good for business because we have open development models and we can collaborate together, and you can throw James a bone every now and again. Yeah, and that part's in trouble because over time it's just gotten further and further away from being a movement that has any kind of moral center, and instead it's just a development model that now is a way that we think about using it in order to move forward in some other mechanism of making money here or whatever the corporate shape of it is. And so we're seeing erosion on all sides because it has lost its moral center, right? It used to have one. And it used to have a perspective that was rooted, whether you agree with that moral center or you don't, like it had one. And I think it really doesn't so much anymore. And that's the root of things like, the trouble with people changing the license or, moving to source available or, the OpenAI definition, the definition of what open source AI looks like, or all of those things like, the OSI put out a definition, but without some reasonable understanding of an equivalent of the four freedoms, like who cares? Like what's it actually mean? And I think yeah, it's definitely a moment of relative crisis.
I think there's definitely a crisis going on, but I also think that the things that are happening are waking up people again. If I see the crowd last week in Brussels, it felt much more crowded than the year before. I haven't seen numbers, but I know numbers from here, and they went up. So more and more people come back to these communities and start to figure out how to contribute again. Last year we had HashiCorp basically triggering OpenTofu. Perforce didn't even have to go that far. The reaction was there already before something really scary happened. And I think that is also a new thing. Like, we start caring much more about what's happening, and we even try to prevent it from happening, rather than just sitting there and wait till somebody, corporate VC, says, hey, I'm going to screw you now. Communities are starting to get prepared. So, not that negative. It's not healthy. I mean, we're losing a lot of older people because they're retiring, and the young people aren't there yet. If you walk around here, I don't feel as the old part, even though I probably am one of the older people. But I suppose I might also didn't feel like the youngster. So,
You're not old, you're experienced.
thank you, James.
Open source has been co-opted by corporate open source. It's the primary reason most of us are here. And the kind of tongue-in-cheek joke is that free software is free as in freedom, open source is free as in labor, which is a bit rude, but kind of the joke is it's what's happening, it's what has happened.
I don't think it was co-opted medicine. I think it was always about business. I think it was literally in the room when they did it. It was because they were like, how do we convince people that it's okay to do this kind of collaborative development in order to disrupt our enemies in the time, browser wars. And like, it started that way, it has remained that way. And I think, like of the three of us, I'm probably the most amenable to capital in general. Like, I love venture capital. I built venture capital companies. It's been great to me. I would encourage all of you to raise venture capital and do it. The idea that it's evil for you, unless you have a couple $1 million to spend on R&D, may I recommend to you that you go get some. It's great. And that's not to say that they're all good actors, that they always treat you well, that it all goes your way. It doesn't. And also, like, it was pretty great.
I have 83 euros.
Right. I have significantly more
I don't know
than
what that is in
83
Canadian,
euro.
but it's about 83.
Yeah. See, it's trouble.
Chris has a Tesla and more.
And has done good, right?
He's
No
done
venture
great.
capital backing.
He's got a family.
He's got it, yeah. And you on the
He's got GNOME 2 on his
But
laptop.
you should 100% donate to MGMT. Anyway.
Can we hit 100 today?
But-
100?
100.
Call in today.
Let's get James to €100 before he leaves here. I think that but I do think that the idea that's been co-opted, I think that's always what it's been.
Your euros.
I think it's actually more that the motion they had in order to get people to a spot where they'd be willing to contribute was that we lied to each other. Like, we told each other that it was about the community and that was the purpose, and that if we were good at that and we took care of each other, that the business would thrive. And it wasn't true. Like, when push came to shove, we showed everyone the truth, which was, it was always ours, right? It was always a business we started. And if it came down to the community or that business surviving, we were gonna choose the business because that's what our incentives were. And I know for myself, I can't speak for anybody else, I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't think to myself, aha, here's my Machiavellian plot. But it's what happened. Because at some point you have, tons of employees, there's all sorts of things that line up against it. The business model doesn't work the way it needed to. Your community loves you, but, we're down 20 euros trying to get where we need to go. And so you make the decisions you need to make because people's lives and families and all that stuff relies on it. And I think now we have an opportunity to sort of reset that clock and get back to a spot where we just look each other in the eye in the first place and say, you know what we need to build is
And you learn
communities.
from that and you're trying it again.
Yeah, because I want to build
Okay.
communities, but this time I'm saying it very clearly. I'm saying, yeah, I'm doing it because I'm going to build a company, and what I want is a community who's invested and finds a way to monetize that software on their own if they want to. And if you don't do that, what happens is there isn't another viable way. And so you wind up with this thing that even though, if you're successful, why is it taking this long to have Vox? We should have had Vox a while ago. And the reason we didn't is because we believe that the creation of Vox.
It's how long?
For ages.
Yeah, but not as a fork. And
No, not as a fork.
And I'm arguing that the fork should have happened a long time ago. And that it didn't is actually just because we were afraid. We thought forking was wrong. We were like, oh, we'll fracture the community. It's not true. The public community will be healthier today because that fork exists than it has been in decades.
It was very simple. I don't agree with you, with the exception that they should have forked the moment they switched from GPL to Apache license, because that's when the writing was on the wall. Or it's not a guarantee, but it basically said to the community, we want to benefit from your labor without being forced to give back, and we might want to make it proprietary or do whatever. And it finally happened.
Which is why they should have forked it, because
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with the rules.
Yeah.
The problem is that what they told each other was that it wasn't about the rules, that those rules weren't the truth. And we need to not lie to each other. It's not that hard. And we just have been, because it worked. People would say, oh, it's about the community, it's about the blah blahs, and
Yeah.
and then push comes to shove, and
It's about the money.
it's about the money.
Cream, baby.
And so, I think we have to be clear with each other so that we can actually build communities that are resilient across that failure spectrum because we have a moral center. Not because we hate the money, but because you can't have a moral center if it begins with me lying to you about why I'm doing it. That's not, you don't trust. shouldn't trust me if that's what I'm doing. Like, obviously that's not gonna work. But, you know, what do we know?
And that's why the license of your software project is the constitution for your community. If you are GPL and you have no CLA, you're promising to your community that you contribute, you put it in, no one can change the license on you. If you're Apache licensed, you're saying, well, we'll maybe care about the community, but if we choose, we might start making it proprietary. Choose the license to match your belief system.
I totally agree with you. My struggle right now, so like System Initiative is under the Apache license, and it's because, but wait.
It's okay, you're a business.
No, but I'm gonna swing it back around again. Like, I actually would love to put it under the GPL.
Do it.
The problem is that
I give you 83 euros right now.
there's two interesting problems. So interesting problem one is that because of the shape of the business model, if I stick it in the normal GPL, it doesn't actually give you the protections you want. And then if you look at the Affero GPL, it has become, because it's not very great for business, it has become toxic in a way that then causes me to have to go have an argument with the entire universe about why that thing is okay.
Only the Americans.
What I want is
United Statesians.
whatever you want to call me, yeah. But what I really want, I do actually just want a copyleft license that makes sense across the for the use cases that are like across the spectrum of use cases, that is easier to apply and easier to understand, and doesn't carry that burden. If it existed, I'd use it. And I think, because I think you're right, that essentially you need to make a declaration that says, like, what is the community for? And I can get there with the Apache license, because what I can say back to you is, right, you also could take it and be proprietary. And at least we're on equal footing. I don't love the footing it puts us on, but like, the idea that what we were supposed to do was stay together, like only if we were being good to each other. You know, if we're not being good to each other, we should not stay together. Like, if you can't get what you want out of the software, part of the reason it's good and you want it under the GPL or you want it to be free is so that you can then make it do what you want. And if we're just being nasty to each other, you should leave. You should fork. You should call it something else. You should move on.
I knew it was a good idea to put you together. So, last two questions. One thing is a personal one about platforms. So, is it really all about platforms today?
What is a platform?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
IDPs?
Internal developer platforms?
Yeah.
IDP is one platform, platforms.
So, let's say,
We were
let's
building
cut it.
platforms
The
that
question
was-
is about what is your opinion, your standing in front of the platform engineering movement, so to say, and eventually Chris as opposed, because he's sometimes opposed to the DevOps thing.
To me, platform engineering is just yet another implementation of how we used to collaborate and how we work together. Whether it's service restart engineer or platform engineer or whatever, it's just another implementation. And if you take out the technology, we were doing platform engineering 10 years ago because we gave teams self-service thingies that they could spin up things with other tools. It's just new technology now, and there's somebody who said, hey, this is platform engineering. And actually, to be frank, I mean, if somebody comes to me and says, I'm a platform engineer, I prefer much more because that describes what they're doing much better than them saying I'm a DevOps engineer.
Yeah.
It's a much better description for a lot of people's job title than what recruiters did 15 years ago.
I mean, how hard could we try to make it not be a thing that you could be a DevOps engineer? I mean, man, we worked hard and we just lost. So yeah, I'll take platform engineer if I have to, because fuck a DevOps engineer. You know what I mean?
The only reason DevOps engineer is a title because you got to have a higher salary. Like regular engineer, DevOps
engineer.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's
AI.
an extra 100K.
What about AI operations engineer?
AI
Now it's
DevOps.
platform engineer that gets
Yeah.
paid.
I mean, I think the thing about platform engineering for me is that the thing that annoys me at the like maximum level about it is when it shows up in my marketing life. It's always like, if you put the platform in front of it, then all of the operational badness that exists in the automation goes away because I platformified it. And I'm like, how is that a thing? Like, You
Well,
platform
you
find it.
automated it.
Sure, I guess the automation of the automation that makes it so the underlying automation that doesn't work so good is going to work better, which is just like, wait, what? No, you just like, it's lipstick on a pig.
What?
It's cool, you know
What?
that. Look,
I was about to say it's like when Juju said they integrated with everything, and
Yes.
basically it was just JavaScript
That's exactly what we're talking
Chef
about.
solo and what apply you need.
yes,
That's what platform engineering is, right?
that's what I mean. And then we say that what it's going to get is something fundamentally different than those underpinnings, and it is just nope.
So I was being in jest. Does anyone remember Red Hat had this thing called Manage IQ? Like this whatever thing. I briefly looked into that when I was at Red Hat. And then I just remembered it the other day, and then I, hopefully not in a mean way, suggested that I got like System Initiative, Manage IQ vibes, and now also Juju. These three feel similar in my brain. Like, and they're not, I know.
Ouch.
There's
Size, not
Love you
that,
too,
no.
James.
no.
See if I donate to your thing.
They were all very popular.
Give him the twin. Magic was never popular. Juju was charming.
They had a lot of
Juju was charming. That was funny. That was so witty.
the Manage IQ had a lot.
Do you
of
remember there was a
companies.
Juju charm? How many people in the room knew that? That was such a good joke, dude.
Hit him with the microphone.
It was. Are you kidding?
That was fabulous.
Wonderful. Okay, so last question will be about AI. Are you ready? So, of all the questions and all the things that we can talk about in AI, let's ask and think about will we have and when, according to you, AI managed systems? So, when will happen? What can happen?
What time is retirement again in Belgium?
Within 1 year, within 10 years?
That's the
I don't
question.
know. What are your
That's your prediction.
forecasts?
I don't know. I'm pretty confident. I'm not an AI specialist at all, so I'm the wrong person to ask. But I'm pretty confident that we'll solve automation before AI solves automation. And at least if AI did produce something really valuable, it'd be either very small or very lossy. Like the latency would be very high for it to achieve good results. Whereas by doing the engineering non-heuristically, we can actually make tight code and tight automation. So I think that'll happen a lot sooner.
So I was working on collaborative filtering in 1996. For those who remember what that is, that's about what we were doing with most Gen AI stuff about 2-3 years ago. Things are going faster. We've been hearing about AI ops for ages, but I don't see it because part of the issue is you need to have a shitload of data, learn from that data, and typically that means you need time, and most organizations don't get that time or they don't get the data set. So you cannot fix this in a one-size-fits-all solution.
And the data's bad that we have.
Yeah, and the data is bad. And it's not just our data is bad, most data is bad. Cleaning the data, you need to have people who know what they're doing. So it's gonna take a while before we get to the point that we can manage the data, we can clean it in a way that it works, and we can actually learn from it. Are we gonna take steps and sometimes even huge steps to get there? Yeah, absolutely. But I still think that the people that come to this conference, they're gonna be supporting and building those systems before they take over.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's like the current state of that technology, as fast as it's moving, it's still sort of fundamentally best at taking data from one shape and transforming it into another, which it can do across like a very wide array of fields compared to what it could do before. Sure, you can put some pickle in it, it'd be good. But the question of like, how do you think about AI in the like broader sense of automation or systems management? Like, sometimes that's a data transformation problem, but mostly it's not. And mostly it's a decision-making problem. It's a given X, do Y. And like, it's actually not very great at those parts of the problem yet. And I think I'm sure there's somebody doing research to try to figure out how do we improve upon those systems, but in the current state, yeah, I don't see how it works in a way that you actually want at all. I think it's just mostly, you can build one and it would probably do things, and I think you wouldn't love it.
Wait, MGMT now does AI, by the way. Send me your monies.
That's now venture capital, right? Now it's come back into the room, and you should, it's all going to happen for you.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So, thank you, Adam, Chris, James. This was an iteration of this abnormal DevOps iteration, and I am Alessandro Franceschi, and thank you for listening.
Thank you all.
If you have more questions,
You can.
directly
Questions?
to us.
Are we asking
Oh, yeah.
questions?
Yeah, that's cool. Questions? If you have a question, come run up and grab a mic. Is it still being recorded? All those questions.
Yeah?
All the questions are so many.
Instead of us running to you, you could just run to us.
Or raise your
Or
hand.
raise your hand and scream and we can repeat it.
But I don't think anybody has a question, man. I think they're all waffles. Or they have waffles. Maybe I should. Oh.
I have one question. Don't you think the code of the systems we are operating is enough descriptive and knowledge for AI to actually operate it efficiently, given training?
Who was your question for?
Everybody.
Yeah. The question was, do we think that the current code that we have to run and automate the systems is enough to train AI to then make good decisions? Is that
Yeah.
fair?
Also the code for the systems themselves.
And also the code for the systems themselves. No. And the reason is that the thing that they're good at doing is, think about it like, if you've ever tried to actually put a feature into a product using AI, like, it's incredibly frustrating. It can do things that you couldn't otherwise do. So, like, for example, we're using it to extract validations or like enums that aren't documented from the AWS API, and then use them so that we can have them in the product so that you can see it fail before you could see it before. It's great at it. I could not tell you how to write the regular expression to do it. It's not a thing you could do. But AI makes quick work of it. It's glorious. Making the logical leap from there to saying, and now what's happening is I have a running system, and I'm going to use it as in the control loop. And to James's point, the latency is just too high, and its ability to choose is too low. And so, like, it doesn't make any sense that you would put it in the loop. Now, if you were asking it a question like, I would like you to rewrite management from Go to Python, it might have a shot, because that's a data transformation problem, and it would be like, well, it probably couldn't do it in one shot, but it could probably get you pretty far. And so it's just that there's a slight frame of the problem where, because you can get this like agent-like behavior that comes out of it, it feels tempting to be like, oh, what could happen is then it could start to operate the systems, but it's not quite right, because even with those agents, what they're really doing is just bringing in more information in order to transform the information in another interesting way, and it's not the right fit for the problem.
I think in a way that the long answer to it's not about the code, it's about how the system responds to that code and the feedback loop we don't have. It's the data that it generates one certain action for being triggered, and we need to sanitize that data for it to actually learn how it happens.
Now you are Mark Burgess for me. That's good.
I'll tell you why I think the data is bad. Because most infrastructure, it's not a diss to anyone here, although you're certainly to blame. The focus is not on artful, beautiful, elegant infrastructure. The focus is on, it's good enough, sorry we leaked your data, it's super shit. So, yeah, that's why. Any questions not about AI? Yeah?
Isn't venture capital the main part we are in the open source crisis? Because one way or the other, the
Hell yeah!
Are you saying is it capital's fault that we're in the crisis?
Exactly.
No, it's yours. I'll be blunt. It's not. It's like what happened is that open source won, and none. How many of you can just recite the 4 freedoms?
I can.
Okay, one person in the back end, you can. I can too. I'll tell you what. If we were here in 1999, every single person in this room could do it.
So you were fucking right.
And the reason you don't have to do it is because what open source practically means for you is that you go to GitHub and you check out the source code and you do some shit with it, and that's as far as you think about it. And lawyers have thought about it, your company doesn't have to think about it, none of you have to think about the values. And so then when it does things you don't like, you go, hey, it's capital's fault. It's the venture capitalist who made me do it. And as an actual CEO who has taken a bunch of venture capital money, I can tell you, they do not tell me what to do. I choose. Now they can fire me, but my job's to choose. So if you don't like what I do, it's on me. And I get to choose the investors too. So guess whose fault it is if I choose a shitbird that makes me do bad things? My fault. But you let me off the hook because I come to ConfigManagement Camp and you're like, Adam seems nice. Yeah? That's not true. So like, it's not Capital's fault, it's yours. You forgot that free software mattered because it matters for you. And you decided it didn't matter anymore. You decided that all that mattered was that you could fork it off GitHub and use it.
What?
I'm pointing roughly at y'all. And like, you have to care again. And you don't. And until you decide that it matters to you in a way that's more fundamental, then you get what you want and you don't have to pay for it, we're fucked.
Adam is 100% exactly correct. No one pays. You know, everyone literally has to go out, individuals, companies. If you consume shit, you have to pay for it. And not $5. Put $100. You know, you can't get a company to pay even one engineer's time for all the code they backing up.
Dude, you gotta have some, like, I hear you.
Yeah.
You're
right. I told you right.
I know, and it's a problem. Like, that's the other thing. There are multiple layers of problems. So there's like, do the maintainers get paid, and how does that stuff work? But like, it is not venture capital's fault here in this crisis.
Yeah.
If all y'all decided that it mattered to you and that free software mattered to you, we would not be in crisis. We would not. But you decided it didn't. You decided what mattered was you get it for free. You didn't decide that it mattered, that other people could use it to get what they needed. That if I'm going to use Felix because I like Felix and he's sitting in front of me, there's a lovely person, his name is Felix. If Felix needs something from my software, I want Felix to have it. Even if I don't want Felix to do it. Because it hurts me not at all. It doesn't take a thing away from me. That's just true. It's morally true. And you don't care. And it's a bummer. And that's why it's failing. It's got nothing to do with the capital.
Let me add one thing there. It's not only our fault as users. Maybe also part of the fault is companies, big companies, making money out of open source projects of other companies.
100%.
I don't think that's actually the problem.
And that's the reason of the HashiCorp changed their license.
No. HashiCorp changed their license. HashiCorp changed their license because their business model was dramatically inefficient, because the only way they could get you to use it was to give it to you for free. And so that dropped their average selling price from what would have been, Chef and Puppet did this to you. Do you know that there were 2 multi-billion-dollar ARR companies when we started? And we obliterated their market. We destroyed it. We dropped a nuclear bomb on it. And if you combine both of us together, we cut it in a third. That's how much money we made. And by growing the market, orders of magnitude. That's insane. And HashiCorp did the exact same thing. They had to have 2, not 1. They had to have 2 home run products in order to squeeze out less than a quarter of Red Hat's revenue.
Which do you think is the second one?
Vault. Vault was a home run.
That was the first one.
Terraform was a home run too. And
Vagrant was before.
yeah, but Vagrant makes them no money.
Yeah.
So like, but like Terraform, how many people in this, like, if we took a survey in this conference that we were at, 600 people, something like that, I bet all 600 of us have run Terraform. And I bet if we ask how many of you paid for Terraform, mark up. This guy. There's like 3 of you. And like, of course, that's why they changed their license. They didn't change their license because big people were gonna take it and they were getting squeezed. No. When you reach saturation in the market and your ASP is low, you cannot grow anymore by getting people on the left-hand side of the equation. There's just a fixed number of people who give a shit. And the price was too low. And so they have to raise the price in order to grow, and they can't. Because as soon as they do, you know what you do? You freak out because they took away your free goodies.
And they can't raise the price because it's not that good.
It is that
it's good, but it's not like...
It is that good, but it's not because we gave it away for free. And then the problem is that because you expected it to be for free, there wasn't a community around it. that actually would carry it until disaster happened. And then, now look, they weren't being very good stewards either. They weren't taking a lot of contributions. That's a real bummer. But like, the economic incentives here, we did this. Like if we should have, if we needed it, we should have forked it way sooner. Way sooner. And like, but it's easy to look at it and be like, no, it's some bad actors that are ruining it for the rest of us who are doing the right thing. It's not true. Like,
Right,
we're
they're
doing,
part of the problem.
we are doing the wrong thing over and over and over again. And then we're pretending the incentives should be different because there's some evil person who's hurting us. It's not true. Like, we need to actually care. And if we cared, it would be avoided. But we don't. And so they don't become sustainable when they're large. It's just what happens. It sucks. And doesn't have to anymore. It could stop. We could end it right now. We should. Raise your hand.
Just to follow up on that, I feel that the problem with financing and not paying for software is more in the big corporations that use the software. So I'm not talking about corporations that want to resell it.
Yeah,
of course.
It's all those for so many products, but I mean, like you have, for instance, corporations in telco, I don't know, and all these giant companies that take, for instance, Terraform as an example,
But don't pay.
They don't pay.
Yeah, so
You're right.
he's saying, look, the problem isn't that people don't pay, the problem is that corporations don't pay. You're exactly right. This is a thing that you can talk about in business terms, right? Really straightforwardly. You're looking at a segmentation that says that their customers are large businesses. But because you are also in their market, we decided as business people that what I'm trying to do is use you and your adoption of Terraform to get to the market that would pay me a big dollar value in the enterprise. That's the problem. Because us as engineers, you don't want to be monetized. You just want to use Terraform. and that's enough for you. You don't need the attestation, you need the help, you don't care who builds it, right? Felix, again, could build Terraform and give it to you, and you basically trust Felix because you're like, I know Felix. Felix is a good dude. He's not gonna do something nasty with the code. And so then you wind up with the software you want. Great.
But there is definitely a problem with the purchasing patterns in the enterprise.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of cases, those enterprises, they don't want to pay for the enterprise version of Terraform, but the companies that build Terraform and things don't allow you to support the open source version.
Correct.
Because that is something we need to fix.
Yes, because they've decided that the open source version exists as a loss leader, essentially. And like, that should be an unacceptable community situation. When there's a moment that says, I'm giving you the same software that I want large enterprises to pay a lot of money for, but you get it for nothing and I'm gonna charge them a bunch, that is a terrible plan. Because they see right through you. And you go sit in those rooms and you try to sell them the software for a lot of money and they go, no. And you're like, but you should. And they're like, why? And you're like, well, because these awesome features I kept or whatever. Insurance, right, yeah, sure. And like, they literally just send you packing or they write you a very small check. And that's what happened to HashiCorp. You go look at it. Like, they were not making enough money on the deals that they did have, which were actually quite a few. Anyway, you're totally right. You're back there.
I think, like, I find it funny because, like, I had some talks here that where people complained that, like, the other way around. Companies wanted to pay for free software, and the developers were like, no, we're not about commercialization. This is a hobby project. We don't want to support you even if you give us money. And this is something that also exists. So, like, at the very same time.
Yeah, sometimes people want to give you money and you don't accept it. Yeah.
You said asterisks?
Yeah, they should give it to James. James will take it.
I still have 83 euros. We're an hour left in the telethon. Please call in today.
Yeah.
Yes! Yes! Here's my donation. 85 euros. We've got 2 more euros. I will squander most of it on purchases of French butter.
I have 20 American dollars.
Oh, 20. I'm gonna, and just to show you,
And you
that
refused when I gave you the money, you
wait,
didn't want it.
wait, just to show we're good sports in the config management space, I am gonna donate today $20 US to System Initiative.
I don't want your money because
It's only $15.
Because it lowers my average selling price, and you are not my target market. My target market is large enterprises. And so if you would like to use System Initiative, you totally can. There's a very generous free tier. If it doesn't fit for you, we can talk about it. And if it still doesn't fit for you, you can fork it. And what I'm gonna do is collaborate with you. It's gonna be awesome. You're gonna do the thing you wanna do with it, and I'm gonna work together with you, and we are gonna engineer the thing that serves our needs. Yours is not the same as mine. And that's what makes us a community. Not because we decide we all want the exact same thing, but because we don't, and we figure out how to stay together anyway.
Who has a Sharpie? Adam, will you sign the bill for me?
Yeah, sure, I'll do whatever you want, but that is your money, not mine.
But I want to sign.
It lowers my selling price.
And I was about to ask, how much does Tiny Puppy charge?
Who?
Oh, too much.
What is it?
What's Tiny Puppy?
Oh, Tiny Puppet.
Oh, Tiny Puppet,
Tiny
not
Puppy
Tiny
is-
Puppy.
It's a free for all.
It's free for everyone, Tiny Puppet?
Free for
That's
everyone.
mean.
Free
That's
forever.
mean.
Was there another question?
Don't listen to him, Alessandro. I give you,
Sorry,
I give
yeah.
you $20 US.
I don't know
for
how
Tiny
we got
Puppet.
so spicy about open source, but.
More questions? Yeah.
Marco, what's up?
Gentlemen.
Question, just something to add. I think important what you said, Sandra, before. I don't think it's, I don't want to kind of justify the corporates, but I think the problem is not just they don't pay anything for it, but first of all, it's all about contribution. So even if you don't pay the money, you should contribute to the project. And changing the licenses, I think the biggest problem is breaking the social contract. That's the biggest problem.
Absolutely. As somebody who definitely broke his social contract.
Repeat it.
The statement was that part of the problem was if you were writing software, you should be contributing.
There should be some kind
There should be some kind of,
not necessarily monetary.
yeah, it could be a code, it could be lots of things, it could be monetary, and then,
Mine is fine.
but then the problem with the license changing is that the social contract is then broken. And the answer is absolutely. And like part of the lesson I learned at Chef was that the social contracts with good intentions that we went into was like, wouldn't it be great if we were all a community and we worked together? And I believe all of those things down to my toes, I always have. And there was a moment where there were a bunch of enterprises who would pay me nothing. And we were gonna die. And there's a lot of people who worked for me, and I didn't want that to happen. And so I solved the problem. And in order to do it, I broke the social contract, which was that Chef, the thing my company made, was a thing that belongs to people who were not me. And in that moment, it was like I was a Scooby-Doo villain. You know what I mean? It's like I ripped my mask off and was like, haha, like actually, it never belongs to you. It always was mine. And they were like, no, that's awful. Like we contributed all this work and your branding and we went to your chef comps and stuff and now you like rip your little mask off and it's no. And like,
Well, that's exactly what happened with HashiCorp.
it's what happened with HashiCorp too. And like, the difference was at least I open sourced all the software and gave you an out. So I feel a little better about it. But still, like it's tough. Anyway.
So we're at 104 equivalent euros. The telethon ends in 10 minutes, so call in now.
Do you take Venmo?
I don't know what that is.
Whatever, people can pay from their phone, man. Cash App.
US weird Cash App. I mean, I'm not installing that shit. So Google gave me this Google, what is it? Thank you for being an engineer of open source stuff that we like. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, sure.
Peer bonus thing. And I had to get this $250 US by signing up with Payoneer. And they wanted a photo of my passport and all this shit and banking information. So I was like, fuck it, that 250 is in the Ethereum and not the good one.
That's why you got 83 euros.
That's why you only have 83 euros, man. You
Yeah.
could add more.
So.
You should raise your average selling price. Any other questions?
Questions?
Who's coming back tomorrow?
This is, we build everything on top of the kernel, right? We have people that it's paid by companies because
Yep.
and individual contributors. We compile that kernel also by using a tool, a compiler. Usually is the new
GCC.
compiler, right? And somebody else is also contributing to keep that up to date. And actually your company is using probably whatever kind of programming language. Are you paying to the foundation that probably it's a foundation, I don't know, the programming language that you're using. But are you paying actually to that foundation?
Yeah, he's asking, the question
And
is,
this, it comes from the bottom to the top, and then it's like a cascade effect.
yeah, so the question, I think the statement slash question is, we have like open source kernels and we have open source compilers and there's all these contributors that are contributing to it. Are our companies or other people, are we paying the people who are building the compilers, right? And the answer is yes, broadly.
Asked if you were paying.
You're asking if I personally, if System Initiative is paying for compilers? No, I don't pay $1 for a compiler. You know why? I don't have to, because you gave it to me for free. It's incredible. Rust is incredible, and I use it all the time, and you told me that I could have it for nothing, and so I do. And then someday, if I need to, I'll maybe contribute to it, but mostly I don't need to, and neither do you, and that is a miracle.
Do one villain laugh. One villain laugh.
But mostly those same people, like, are in fact getting paid, because like Red Hat, for example, pays a huge number of kernel developers and a huge number of compiler engineers.
Because less and less.
But in relative terms, still a ridiculous volume.
Yep.
And the reason they can do that is because it's valuable to them when they sell their very expensive software to large enterprises, to have those people that they rely on staff. Because like, I once had a cluster, an Oracle rack cluster that got corrupted at the file system level because there was a kernel bug. And Red Hat put a kernel engineer who worked in that subsystem for the memory subsystem on an airplane, flew him to the office, sat him next to us. He couldn't figure it out either. But then we got the guy who wrote the Oracle file system who had left, and we paid him this ridiculous amount of money. He flew in on a private jet and he like fixed it with a hex editor. And like, so sometimes you just want the people who can do that to be near you, and so they get paid to work on compilers. It's amazing.
So the lesson is don't use OCFS2?
For real. But maybe don't have memory corruption bugs was probably the real lesson.
More questions?
Yeah, you think there's some room in the enterprises for another Red Hat?
Hell yeah.
Not only is there room for another Red Hat, the greatest crime that we have committed in terms of open source business is that we convinced each other that that model was unique to Red Hat. What we have said, what we decided was that Red Hat that was unique because Linux was unique. It wasn't. Red Hat is an enterprise software company. They make software, they sell it for money. I dare you right now to go run Red Hat Enterprise Linux for free, because you can't do it. You can't do it. You can run CentOS all day, but if you would like Red Hat Enterprise Linux, you pay them on average $896 a CPU. You know what it costs to run Ubuntu? If you want to buy a license for Ubuntu, do you know? No, they sell licenses. Do you know what they cost?
$20.
They cost $896 a CPU. You know how many of you buy them? None of you. You know why? They gave it to you for free. So I gotta tell you, I don't think it's your fault you run it for free. I think they're fucking dummies for deciding that their big market plan, like Red Hat, Ubuntu's share is they have like a 33 share of the Linux market. You know what RHEL's share is? 0.09 or something. Less than 1% of the global Linux market runs RHEL. They mint $2 billion. Ubuntu struggles to get over 200 million. Ooh, no, I'm right. That's their number, 0.9, I think. Less than 1%.
Then there was a lot more.
Yeah, historically, but like, this is the thing about a high ASP, right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't need to have all of you. They just need the people who pay them, on average, $896 a CPU. And like...
My understanding was there's more RHEL, but you're right on the point.
But then they give more RHEL, like that software, if you look at CentOS, it has a much higher share, right? If you look at all the clones and add them up, they have a much bigger share. This is better, because it's not worse, it's better. Because they're actually aligned incentives. And yeah, there will be more Red Hats if we're lucky. I've been trying to explain this to venture capital, and it's now starting to work, where I can now like break down how the business model works and be like, this is dumb. And the problem is that open core and open source, when you give software away, you all really like it. And so you'll use it. And the lift that happens in companies, because the venture capital growth model starts with growth, right? So if you can just get a lot of people to use it, that's enough to then generate a bunch more venture capital. So because open source is so effective at getting you to adopt, you use it, and then the story we tell ourselves is we'll monetize you later, which inevitably is a trap, because in order to get you to use it, I had to give away so much value that I can never claw back.
I mean, part of that trap is also people conflate users with customers, which is almost never the same.
Yeah, Marco points out that the trap is that if you conflate users with customers, that's also a trap and bad.
Because everybody's just chasing GitHub stars, right?
Because everybody's chasing GitHub stars.
I mean, like, I think it's obviously necessary that you can't pay for all the software that you're using. I have 1,940 packages installed on this laptop. I could never pay for all.
Do you pay for one of them?
I don't think you need to pay for all of them.
Just pay for one.
I think it's the responsibility of the people who decide they're going to build businesses to figure out how to build a business that you pay money for value you receive. I don't think it's a problem that you don't pay for it. I think it's a miracle that you don't have to pay for it, and I think we should all cherish it, because it's a miracle enabled by this incredible nature of software as being a thing that doesn't degrade when we share it. That it's an infinite resource. It's incredible that it works, and we should cherish it. And also, we should figure out how to make money so that we stop being mean to each other for needless reasons.
I mean, the quote about the candle, which I'm paraphrasing, but from my candle to yours, I share the flame and neither of us has the lesser. Just pay for one. Pay for one fucking piece of software. You know, $20 a year. That would be a great first start. Or
Telefon's still going.
Contribute. Yeah. Right, Kevin?
Somebody buy James beer tonight.
No, I'm good.
I already did.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
It's 10 to 6. Who's coming back tomorrow?
Chris contributes by organizing these great conferences. So,
One way to do it.